Haunting of Hill House was a Netflix series released back in 2018. I know most of you have probably seen it. It is, of course, written and directed by Mike Flanagan. It's adapted from Shirley Jackson's iconic novel, The Haunting of Hill House, and in my opinion, this show is perfect. For those who haven't seen it, Hill House tells the story of a family of 7, Hugh, Olivia, Steve, Theo, Shirley, and twins Luke and Nellie. Flashing between past and present, the Crane family confronts haunting memories of their old home and the terrifying events that drove them from it. Now, as stated in the title of this review, I love this show, and I honestly think it's perfect. When it comes to the best shows I've ever seen, I would put this underneath Breaking Bad as number 2. That is how good this show is. I know that a lot of people love this one. I think that it is easily the best thing I've seen Netflix put out, probably in general, at least for the Netflix original shows. It is by far my favorite one. And yes, I have also seen Bly Manor. I will review that soon. And this month, I'm also going to watch Oculus, Hush, and Gerald's Game for the very first time. And I have seen Dr. Sleep. I saw it in theaters. And then I watched the director's cut at home. And Mike Flanagan is just a genius, and I would consider him my favorite modern horror director, just slightly above James Wan. It was James Wan for a while, but the second I finished the show, I was like, okay, no, it is Mike Flanagan. And I originally started the show, I think about a year ago, and I think I watched the first episode, but just I wasn't in the best place, so, mentally, so I don't remember paying attention much to it, but I knew what I was watching was good. I was like, I remember that was good. But then this summer, actually, I think by the start of July, I watched the first 2 episodes with my friend at the cottage that we were staying at, and I was like, this thing's terrifying, but I absolutely love it. And just something with me, I'm not sure if I've talked about it on YouTube or not. I'm really bad at consistently watching shows, so I watched those first 2 episodes then, and then I think I watched episode 3 like a few days later, and then it took me like weeks to continue the show. But the second I finished episode 4, and that's not something on the episodes, but the second I finished episode 4, I think I just binged the rest in like a few days. This show was amazing. Every single episode is just so smart, and the reason behind that is because every one of these main characters, basically, especially the children, get an episode dedicated to them. Flanagan wisely chooses his scares here. Instead of only going with jump scares, he builds so much tension in scenes. Now, the show has its fair share of jump scares, but they feel warranted. That's something I've talked about for a while on YouTube and just in general. I hate jump scares when they're cheesy, when they're just an excuse to make the audience jump. I think they're stupid. But when you build tension and you finally release it with a jump scare, it works perfectly. I think that this show actually features the greatest jump scare of all time, and that is the car scene. And if you have not seen the show, you're in for a treat. Instead of going with the cheap way out, he builds a tension that keeps the audience on the edge of their seat. Now, I watch a lot of the show in bed just because bed's there, TV's there, and I swear, like times when I was lying down, like I was actually holding on the covers like a stereotypical, when characters watch horror movie and stuff, they're like holding it like this, and I remember like holding it like, oh my god, is the tension gonna be released? And sometimes it wasn't. Sometimes scenes just end like that, and the transitions are so smooth. I think they're the best transitions I've ever seen. I'm gonna say the word best a lot in this video. I apologize for that, but the transitions are just so smooth because it does tell a story between, like the past and the present, so you switch back and forth. And one thing that is always terrifying, something that's always terrifying, not just in horror, but just in general, is casting child actors. But the children here are some of the best I've ever seen, and honestly, the 2 best out of all the kids that stood out to me were the twins, Luke and Nellie. Oh my god, were these kids good. And that's just shocking because they are the youngest, and also Henry Thomas, just the cherry on top. This guy is amazing. I'm so glad that Mike Flanagan keeps putting him in his movies. Obviously, he was in Dr. Sleep as kind of Jack Nicholson's character, but he was the bartender there. I know, obviously, he was in Bly Manor for a significant enough role, not one of the main ones, but significant enough. And I just love that. I couldn't even pick my favorite character at this point, but one thing I can pick my favorite of is episode, and that is Episode 6, Two Storms. Now, as much as I loved Episode 5, it is actually the highest rated one on IMDb. Episode 6 is my favorite episode of TV, probably besides Ozymandias, like Season 5, Episode 15 or whatever of Breaking Bad, like the best thing ever. It has an average on IMDb of 10 out of 10, so that says enough about it. This episode was amazing. There are like over 15-minute one-take sequences that are not tricked. Like, there are not times where they'll pass by something and there'll be a hidden cut. Like, there's actually one time where, again, this could have been a hidden cut, but this isn't the scene I'm referring to. The one I was referring to with the no hidden cuts is with, in the present, but in the past, there's one time where it drops from the top level to like the main level, and I watched the behind the scenes of that, and they just made a rig for it. They didn't hide a hidden cut or anything. I just think that is so smart with Mike Flanagan. But I think I have to dive into the actual horror a little bit more here. Mike Flanagan, as I said, is just an absolute genius when it comes to horror and building tension, but I think the scariest thing about this is within the family, and I think that's what makes this show it elevates it above everything else, because you can have a great scary show with jumps and everything. Like, you can make the audience jump, you can have them, crawl and hide under their blanket. Not exactly like I did, but you know what I mean. But yeah, the ghosts are quite scary, but the scariest thing about the show is that a lot of these characters, a lot of the siblings, are slowly losing their grip on the rope that's connecting through them all. And I just think it's so well dealt with, because obviously one of the main things with the show, again, spoilers as I said a few times, is that Nell ends up committing suicide. Not exactly, but if you've seen the show, you know what happens, and the reveal of the bent neck lady is shocking. One of the greatest reveals ever. I did not see it coming at all. Maybe people did. I did not see it coming at all. I have goosebumps and I'm stuttering. That's how good it is. And that episode 5, the bent neck lady, is just this genius episode, because every single time I wanted an episode to like focus on a character, it would happen. Because I remember when I started episode 4, I was like, okay, I want to learn more about Luke, because Luke's one of the best characters, like top 3 characters in the show, at least for me. Boom, episode on him. Next one, I'm like, okay, well, we've gone through a lot of them. We need to talk about Nellie now. Boom, talks about Nellie in a very horrific way, but I just think the way it was handled was just so like menacing and like almost in a sharp way, if you know what I mean. Like, there's little bits of sharp pain that was almost felt through the show. That is how good the show is. This show is unbelievably good. If you have not checked it out, I am begging you to watch it, although I bet everyone who's watching this video has seen the show. I also guess the ending is divisive. When looking online and like looking at reviews, I guess a lot of people didn't like it. When it ended, I did not feel unsatisfied or anything. I don't really know why people didn't like the bittersweet ending. It makes perfect sense. The idea of the red room and everything in it, that was another one of those twists that I was like, how did I not see this? Like, it's just one of those things where I'm just like, how did I not see this? I love this show. The Haunting of Hill House is the best piece of horror I've seen since Stanley Kubrick made The Shining in 1980, my favorite horror film of all time. The anxiety is felt, the ghosts are creepy, but it is the family dynamic that really elevates this show above everything else. Mike Flanagan, you sir are a genius. I'm gonna give The Haunting of Hill House a 5 out of 5. I'm not kidding when I call this show perfect. This show delivered everything I wanted, and as I said, just in that thing like 15 seconds ago, The Shining is my favorite horror film of all time. So when it was announced that he was gonna do this, I was like, okay, I've heard some good things about it. And then when I watched the show, I'm like, I can see why they picked him for Dr. Sleep. Dr. Sleep is a great movie. I'm very excited to talk about Bly Manor and his other movies. I'm going to make some movie nights and stuff like that about them. This month is going to be great. I hope you guys enjoyed the intro. I just threw that together tonight. It's been a very busy night, but I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you love this show, and I want to know what you think of it. Tell me down below, and thank you all for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Over and out.